Keith Lincoln,
Here.
Dave Walker,
Here.
Jim Beers.
Here.
Good, full attendance. So we're going to do the opening invocation and pledges now. So the first thing I want to say that, we lost former Admiral Bob Lilac. And, I want to pass this around. So, at the polls, Bob met Bob, and he was out there every day in the April 2022 election. And we had a good time and great election experience. And I'm sorry to hear about his passing, and I wish his family well. He's great mud director.
Here.
Heavenly Father, we welcome you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us work for the common good. Guide us to insightful and prudent in our intention. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all that attend and engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue. Amen. I'd like to take a moment of silence for Bob to wish him well. Amen. Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God,
one and indivisible.
Comments from the public. Rena, I think you're up.
Thank you, Chairman and members. I'm here today with a little bit of a petition. And the petition today is that this body add a future agenda matter to the opposition of flock cameras in the woodlands and the warrantless mass surveillance and data harvesting of every person who lives and passes through the community that system promotes. I've come to learn that there are those among this body that are sympathetic to the cause, and perhaps employees, I don't know, officials here. And, I think this board, I think it would be an advantage for this board to make a declaration or opposition to the flock cameras and direct it directly to the township that has sponsored the cameras, because they don't have a tendency to be interested in the voice of members of the public, but they do tend to pay attention to other peer elected officials. So I've got just a few comments, which I'm sure if you've heard about flock cameras, you know all about them. But support for the Second Amendment, this is about the Fourth Amendment, right? Flock camera. Support for the Second Amendment and opposition to flock-style mass surveillance rests on the same constitutional principle government powers. That government power must be limited when it threatens the freedom of ordinary law-abiding citizens. The Second Amendment recognises the citizens retain individual rights that do not depend on government permission, convenience, or changing political fashions. The Fourth Amendment provides a parallel protection. People should not be subjected to pervasive, suspicionless monitoring simply because technology has made it easy. Automatic license plate reading cameras can create detailed records of where people travel, worship, work, seek medical care, meet friends, attend political events, or exercise firearms rights. That is not targeted policing. It is an infrastructure for tracking an entire public. A person who believes the state should not disarm peaceful citizens should also question whether the state should quietly assemble a searchable map of their movements. There's a couple of quotes which I think are pertinent. You've heard of Edward Snowden, and Edward Snowden said, ultimately saying, and I've heard this comment in the woodlands, ultimately saying that you don't care about privacy because you have nothing to hide is no different from saying that you don't care about freedom of speech because you have nothing to say, or that you don't care about freedom of the press because you don't like to read, or that you don't care about the freedom of religion because you don't believe in God. The Fourth Amendment, another quote, Jeremy Kitchen from he's the president of the Texas Policy Research Organization. He says the Fourth Amendment wasn't designed around trusting government to use enormous investigative powers responsibly. It was designed to put limits on those powers. And so that's in a nutshell why I oppose flock cameras, and I believe this body should too. I hope we would put it on the agenda and defend the rights of people in the woodlands that you serve, but this body actually represents more fully than the township itself. And they are giving lip service to liberty in the name of safety and trampling over a God-given right, the Fourth Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Thanks, Adrian. Mike, would you, recognizing you came tonight, do you want to speak?
Want to be an informed resident.
Okay.
Oh, they're
Not like the
dangerous.
47 meeting, but I guess I was golden.
Well, thanks for coming to the meeting.
Yeah.
So one thing I forgot to mention about Bob's is that his funeral's on 10 a.m. on the 25th of August at the Woodlands Methodist Church. So, I encourage everybody to go if they can. Okay, let's see. Receive updates on Region H. There's Arthur.
President, trustees, and senior staff. Our next quarterly meeting will be November the 4th, and I'll be here at the trustee meeting in November. We had our third quarter meeting, as you know, in July. But I found something very interesting. I asked Shelley to post this news release dated July 23rd. It's from the Texas Water Development Board. They did approve the State of Texas Water Plan for 2027. There's some very good information in there. For example, population is forecast for the next 50 years. That's from 2030 to 2080 will rise 53%. So we're going to grow up to 52.3 million. With that, as you know, more bodies need more water. So you're going to read some things in there about there's at least a 6% growth in demand. But what's interesting is that when you overlay drought into this thing, we're going to be short of water. So in the plan, there's 6,700 water management strategies. And there's 3,000 water projects outlined in this plan to try to contain demand. And then there's some projections that if we achieve all of those projects, we're looking at about $174 billion of capital investment. That's just the capital investment. Then they also did an economic impact study. If we don't increase our demand for water and a drought continues, you can have anywhere from $91 billion to $177 billion of economic impact. There's not a lot of details in the actual announcement, but these were kind of high level. So I thought it was important. It's out there in the Region H on the Google Drive if you want to take a look at the details. There's also a link to get to the actual full Texas water plan for 2027.
And Arthur, did you say last month that they did not include much analysis of the AI facilities being built?
There's not a lot of analysis on that in this plan,
Right.
but there'll be more analysis going forward because a lot of that came on late in the planning cycle.
So those numbers are without that.
Without that, without what those impacts are, and you're hearing rumors about more legislation in 27 that's going to require these folks to bring their own electric power plants, their own water. So there's a lot going to unfold on what is that long-term impact to the state. You take a look at the good side with the investment, but you got to also take a look at what the impact's going to be for us as consumers in various communities. So all I can do is stay tuned. If there's more coming, I'll come back in the next couple of months. If anything's important, we'll get it posted on the G Drive. But I thought it would be good to at least give you that update tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I was up at Lone Star yesterday afternoon, and they were talking about the DFCs that are upcoming. And desired future conditions. And they're only using one, which is the percentage of remaining available groundwater from a datum year of 2018. That's going out to 2080, I believe. So that's the planning period. But in the model that they are using to develop the quote unquote model available groundwater, the MAG, their simulated pumping starting in 2030 is approximately 200,000 acre feet per year going all the way through. And I had thought when I read the Region H report, you had a more progressive development of.
More slow progressive line.
Yeah. Do you have any comments on what's going on here?
So what we'll have to do is take that information, go to our consultant, and say, this is what they're modeling. What are you looking at?
Okay.
Was this presented to you when we finished the plan going out to 2030?
Oh, okay. So this.
They may not have, what they may not have communicated that to the consultant. They may have done this after the plan had closed. So I think we got to just kind of investigate, find out what they're doing. They may be doing as what if, and they didn't submit anything for Region H.
Okay, but that would be of interest to you all.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Look, anything that impacts demand of water is of interest, because supply is not plentiful as we think.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. We'll take that back to the consultants and see what they have to say.
Arthur, sir, do the other groundwater districts in Region H, do they have to approve this 200,000 to, or I guess it's GMA 14, right?
GMA 14 is what.
Right. So GMA 14, well, we got 5, 6 groundwater districts. Do they have to approve that 200,000? Or does Lone Star just arbitrarily say, we're going to double it from what we had 5 years ago?
I think they have to, and Eric may know, I think they have to present that to Region 14. And I think Region 14 has to review all of that. Because we went through that a number of years ago when they took over and they presented higher DFCs. I don't think they can just arbitrarily say that they want to do these things without.
So the other 5 in GMA 14 have to approve that? Okay, so when is that presented?
Well, first of all, we got to know if this is something they're really going to present or they're going to really do. This is just a what if.
Yeah.
The proposed are not adopted. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
It wouldn't be in that plan.
Right.
That's-
Oh, okay, okay. So these are running in parallel then, in essence.
Not really,
No,
not really.
no, the DFCs have not been adopted yet.
Yeah.
They're doing what ifs and they're looking at it. So they got to go through that process and then it's got to go to the GMA 14. If that gets approved, then it should come in our next planning cycle.
But then doesn't the Texas Board Development Board have to, sign off on that at that
Yeah.
level, state level? Okay,
It goes up the chain.
okay.
So it's not anything that's going to be, they cannot make arbitrary decisions and say that that's what we're going to do and
Okay.
have approval impact. We went through this last time because they did wind up at the Texas Board of Development Board when they tried something like this. And it was temporarily was put on hold and they had to go back and do additional studies and present that to the Texas Board of Development Board. Because at the time, there were representatives from Woodlands Muds that went down for that hearing and actually made presentations against those higher levels. And the Texas Board of Development Board took an action at that time to put it on hold, kick it back to them and bring additional studies. So this group has impact in water around the state.
Arthur, would you have a simple flow chart that kind of shows us how those pieces fit together or work over time so that, Neil clearly understands it pretty well. Ken seems to. I have, all these things are new to me.
Well, I wouldn't claim I understand it pretty well.
But is there a simple diagram or something that would show us how that
We
works?
can ask our consultant, one, what's the diagram for us? And what's the diagram for the groundwater improvement districts and see if it's out there.
Yeah.
Texas Board of Development Board may have it, so we'll investigate, do they have it on their website? Because they've got a lot of information, a lot of interactive stuff on their website.
That's a good idea. Thanks.
All right.
One other point
Yes, sir.
is it's amazing that 5 years ago, their quote consultants determined the DFC was 97,000 acre feet per year, right?
Yes.
5 years later,
They want to go 200.
well, but the point is that, my opinion is they're consultants. You tell us what answer you want and we'll come up, but, having done oil and gas reservoir modeling and if you made 100% mistake in 5 years with 50 or 60 or 70 years worth of data, you get fired
You don't think you'd be hired?
in a public company.
Yeah.
So, that's my only comment. And, anyway,
But it's a good one.
well, I actually went to the GRP meeting because Lone Star was trying to get endorsements from the various public entities. And anyway, I made a public statement, which you can see on the web, but basically opposing that 200,000. So anyway, my only.
I think what we learned last time is the good takeaway is this group, Muds and Woodlands, go to the meetings, make your public comments, and we got to follow this thing because we did make impact last time. And both at the local level and at the state level.
Well, I've gone to the GRP meeting or listened to them, and you got muds that are complaining because they're losing well capacity at the current DFC. And basically they're saying, hey, it's going to be a free for all. You just pump till they're dry. That's their theory.
Well, my one comment is that it's an election year, and I think 4 of those seats are up for election, so.
No, they're all unopposed.
What?
Well, they have 10
They're all
more
on
days,
the
they have
road.
5 more days, 6 more
No,
days.
a few more days.
Okay, Arthur, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Neil,
Well, Mr.
your insight into Region 6?
No, like I said last month, the next meeting is the 18th of August, so there's no update from Ms. Diaz. Yeah, they just have, I guess it's the summer and a lot of people are out, so. So hopefully next month we'll get an update. I'll be sure that she's here.
Okay, so now we're into the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything out of the consent agenda for discussion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion approved, got a second? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, regular agenda, discussion act. Okay, discuss and act on a proposal to add new permanent items. Name, the trustee comments and request for information to each Board of Trustee agenda.
I asked,
Like to make a comment?
I would. I asked to have some of that put on, and I thought I had it separate. I think they're a little separate, so I'd like to separate the trustee comments from the requested information. So I'll address the trustee comments first. Some of the MUDs have included a trustee comment section on their agenda to permit some conversation without deliberations, discussions, or action to address issues that may arise. One might have been when we had a speaker, Adrian. He talked about flock cameras, and there is no place on the agenda to talk about flock cameras. But if we had something called trustees comments, we could say, that's interesting. What do we think about that? Or should we put it on the agenda or whatever? And I would ask Brian, who I've run this by before for MUD 67, because it's on our agenda for this month. Would you please comment, because you're much more of an expert on it than.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we have had at least one district who's had an item on their agenda about director comments. And MUD 6, and then there was another request, I think it was MUD 1 last month, the meetings run together after a while. But what the idea is basically give directors, or in this case, trustees, same opportunities as the public to basically provide comments. Now, there's a difference between comments and deliberation. It's not like a backdoor end around to the requirements to have, a published agenda, and anything that's discussed and deliberated has to be on a published agenda as a separate agenda item. So it's not an end around that legal requirement, but so you couldn't deliberate. So just to be clear, if there were director comments and a director wanted to speak up and say, hey, I have an issue with flock cameras and, I'd like to put something on the agenda. This is something I have, or hey, I think this is overblown, or, whatever. You got people on different sides. You could raise, but you couldn't engage in deliberation. So you got to be careful about that and discipline, frankly, because it'd be easy for one director to give comments and another. Now that starts cross pollinating, now you have deliberation and you're in violation of the Open Meetings Act. So I just give you caution if you're going to do it, to be careful and be disciplined about it.
Brian, what's the difference between discuss matters be placed on future agendas?
That is just to say, hey, I'd like to put this item on the agenda. You're not supposed to deliberate on it
Right.
because
Sounds similar to that.
correct. Well, it's similar, but there could be something in particular that a director wants to speak as though they were a member of the public about. And that's really the purpose of the item, is to give directors or trustees the ability to speak on a matter that you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, at
As a
month
comment.
6, we have it under standard items.
Does that work for
After the
you?
public. Well, most of the time, there aren't many, but occasionally something will come up to say, okay, let's go and discuss, put it on the agenda for discussion at some point. If it's of pertinence and importance to whatever's going on in the mud. So there might be some roadworks, there might be someone doing something weird with the water lines, or who knows.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of thing.
So do you, you treat it like public comments, you limit it to 3 minutes and no discussion, just a comment.
Yeah. I think it works well.
So-
I think it's a good idea, John.
Yeah, I know. Well, I guess we're imitating you and I didn't know that. I'm glad to hear it works. I just heard it raised. I go, it sounds like an interesting avenue if need be.
Well, it just flagged something. If you want to get on the agenda, you go down to the item towards the end, just
Right.
before adjournment, discuss any matters. And I think it's a nice avenue. Again, no deliberation. That's the critical thing. Yeah.
And we have Brian here to keep us straight.
It seems more like grandstanding to me, and I kind of would move away from it.
Any other vote?
Okay, so I'll
What, any more discussion?
I'll say what I think I've heard. So
Mhm.
we will place a trustee's comment after item 3, in which a trustee could use 3 minutes to speak. But that's not a debatable item. They speak and then we listen and then we move on to the next person. Is that,
We need to make a motion for that?
Let me ask
the
you,
motion? Is that?
since we can't reply to a public comment, you need to kind of clarify because, I'm sure that will, if you're going to put it right after the public comment, people are going to want to reply to public comments.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
And, I think y'all need to decide, do you want to wait and have it toward the end of the meeting? I think that on MUD 6, we have it at the end. So,
It's
Is that-
in standard items. It's right after public,
well, anyway,
but we don't comment on what people say.
Correct.
A director
You have a particular comment. Now, certainly understand the concern about, Brad, about if things kind of get out of hand. And so, you don't want to take up, you got 10 directors, 3 minutes. And if everybody's going to say, it's going to be 30 minutes of public. So if it gets out of hand, to come back and have a policy to say, all right, no more than 3 trustees can speak at a meeting to kind of keep this moving along. But I don't know that we need to go that far at this point, but if it gets out of hand, then we could always come back and put some tighter reins on it.
I really don't see a need for it, and just wasting time really for me.
So Ron, you said you have it on Metro?
No, we've got.
Back to back.
It's on 6 and. You have discussed any matters of placement. Right.
A place for director comments. We do have a place for director comments.
It's a lot of.
At the end.
So you're saying.
Yeah.
You could include that under 20.
I think so.
Oh, I like Brian's thought that if you're not careful, we'll be responding to to a citizen's comments. That could easily happen.
If I'd like to amend your proposal. Sure. To put it towards the end of the meeting, not after public comment.
Yeah, so if you put it, if you, like on this agenda, if it was number 20, before items for placement on future agendas, a director could make a comment, another director could say, hey, that's interesting, I'd like to deliberate on that, let's put it on the agenda, which rolls right into the next item.
Yes.
I make a motion that we add a section called trustee comments to our future agendas in front of the item where we
20.
discuss well, in this case, 20, where we discuss any matters for placement on future agenda.
Bring that as motion.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Call for vote.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
It passes.
Okay, so I broke that up. I asked that requested information go to number 10. And that was me as well. And I've been working with Shelley. And that in some of our meetings, we discuss, make specific requests to the WWA or SJRA for having future information given to us. And it got confusing when it was embedded in the text of the minutes. And I asked her, perhaps it would be better to put it at the end of our minutes where you have a special section that says, these items are requested by such and such director from SJRA or WWA. So we can all track what we requested and make sure that we get it, make sure that everybody remembers it. So that was the requested information part. And then I think number 10, other people have mentioned, well, how do we make sure that all the MUDs get information they were requesting? So I was making that recommendation. I don't know if it had to be a motion to add that to the trustee agenda and the other MUD agendas. I thought it was just a business type thing, but I don't know.
So are you combining 9 and 10, John?
I took part of 9 away. We already voted on trustee comments and suggested information. I don't know that we need to vote on it. Maybe we probably may have to do something in 10 about the rest of it, about informing all the MUDs. But I thought maybe I didn't know if the agenda, a section of the agenda, a new way to organize it was an agenda item to be voted on or simply something that you do as a business product. I just don't know.
So I thought we were toward the end of the meeting, let's say after 20. You know, on several occasions, you requested information. Do you want to place that after 20, where you talk about future, and then you say, by the way, in your quarter minutes, I've asked for this information. Will you please put that in the minutes?
Oh, but I have to remember our meeting now. Like when SDRA is presenting, I go, hey, could you please get us a copy of that report XYZ? And then I thought just sort of fall to the minutes when she
So
does.
you're asking Shelley to record that minutes that,
She can report it in the text, but that's kind of hard to find, and it's easier just to put I would just keep a section at the bottom saying that was.
You're saying just put like a bullet point or a numbered
Exactly,
list of what you'd ask for in the meeting. Right.
It would be in the minutes, not the agenda.
Right, that's what I mean.
in the minutes.
Yeah,
See,
so we're
okay.
documented, the
What's
public knows what we asked, and we know what we asked.
We kind of doing that? No?
Not sure to what extent you're wanting it done, I guess.
Well, if we ask a question, I think that's different saying, can I please have that document or that map or something specific that needs to be delivered to us?
Basically, it sounds like, John, what you're asking for is to revise the format of the minutes, to add an additional section at the end after all the rest of it. It just has, requested information for that meeting, bullet point, boom, boom, boom. And basically just revise the format of the minutes to include that.
He said that way better than I did. That's exactly what I was saying.
So, and I don't think, if the board concurs in that, I don't think we need to put anything on the agenda or take separate action. It's more a matter of, does the board concur? Or you can take a motion, or if you want to reformat the minutes to include that as a separate portion at the end of the minutes.
I brought it up here because we discussed it with MUD 67 and I mentioned it last month. And so let's talk about it some more. So I wanted to, instead of me requesting it, I wanted to see if it was of interest to the other board members. And also if they're interested, it's something for them to think about for their MUD agenda. So I don't know what.
Would be hard to implement. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so I said, in item 10, it wasn't me, but the thing we're at, this kind of falls into item 10. I don't know if we want to redo that in item 10 then.
That's the same thing as, what we just got done discussing, is it?
Well, it's putting it on the agenda, but I know because we put it on our minutes, excuse me. We made a note of we requested a map from SJRA on the minutes. Well, is that going to come to this deliberative body? What about the other 40, if I can do the math, 40 directors? So some of the comments I've heard, well, maybe you should build an index. I don't know the answer. How do we ensure that critical information that one director requests is available to all directors without us breaking any open meeting rules? Not right. We're just kind of restricted by that, whereas I don't know the answer.
Typically, those types of documents we would put on the Google Drive for all directors.
Would you notify them?
It's
That's
a
fine by
request to
me.
Eric
That's what we
to
typically.
pass it out to the rest of the MUDs, right?
That's what we.
I mean,
do sometimes.
After we have this discussion here, if any trustee wants to put it on his agenda, he's free to do that.
Except we don't have time. Our agenda's already done.
Well,
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. I'm sorry, Ed, you were saying something about SGRA?
So when, say like you ask for information from us, we'll send it to Eric and ask that he share that, not only with you, we'll include you on the two line along with Eric. And then ask Eric to share that.
There with all directors. Okay.
so Eric, just to,
That's just standard procedure.
so we have to set our mud agenda. We meet Tuesday, so that means you have to have 4 business days, right?
3 full business days.
3 full business days, so that's really, it means Thursday,
Including the day of the meeting.
Let's change.
Thursday, Friday, Monday.
So we posted them yesterday.
So it's changed
You
again.
posted them yesterday
Yesterday.
for the mud meetings?
Changed in the last session. It used to be 72 hours, just 72 calendar hours. And so a lot of times agendas would go out early Friday, Saturday to Sunday to Monday before Metro's meeting starts, because they all go out at once. We don't kind of drip them out over time. So because Metro meets on Monday, the 3 calendar days has to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So they all have to be posted on Tuesday, which is why the cutoff is what, the Friday before.
Friday, yeah, 2 Fridays before our meeting.
Yeah. That's why.
So my meeting at my end was last Friday.
But none of this would be agenda necessarily
No.
related. If it's just information that was requested by the trustees, it's received, it's distributed by, BCC from Shelley out to everybody saying, hey, this has been uploaded to the Google Drive. It's available for review.
Okay.
I'm never short of information to look at, so.
Yeah, I've seen your library.
Okay, so John, are we satisfied?
I'm more than
Okay,
satisfied.
great. Okay, received the regular monthly FCRA Woodlands Division report.
The month of July was pretty standard, no violations, no major issues. The packet begins on page 18. And if you look, the one thing that the All Muds wastewater treatment facility number 1 evaluation meeting was moved from yesterday to September 1st at the Brady Community Center. Other than that, if I have any questions. What drove that calendar change? I think one was water.
Yeah, just getting the agenda posted in time. We missed the deadline for the 11th. And so there were only as you know, there was.
Available dates.
Yeah. And the 13th didn't work very well for folks the first time we went through it. So we went to the backup dates. That was
And we'll get, so it sounds like their materials already are pretty much ready.
Yeah, I believe we'll be able to send out the materials here in the next few days or a week.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You'll have it in time.
Water loss.
Yeah.
It looks like it's jumped up again.
You got involved, John.
I got involved and it went up. Is that the story? Any comments on that, or it just does what it is until we figure it out?
Jump up in water loss? Comments on water loss? Did that jump up in water?
It's a lagging
That lag?
statistic.
That would be in specific, that would call it.
I am going to announce that the water loss committee did have its first meeting with SJR and WWA in SJRE's offices about a week ago. And per plan, we simply started looking closely at the SJR transmission infrastructure that brings the water into the Woodlands water system, where it connects, where the meters are, started looking at the calibrations of the meters, the history of the calibrations. So we're starting with the infrastructure first before we move into the WWA. We'll do their infrastructure, and then finally we'll do the software metering side and the software side. My plan is to, and I've been working with SGRA, is to put together a packet as we go through to provide information to the trustees, and they can use that to tell their boards what the water loss committee is doing, what we found to date, and where we're headed. So it's work in progress, bear with me, but that's our plan.
That's an early committee report.
That was I didn't know I had, you have a spot in there for it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that. I had to read the whole
But we
thing.
didn't put it down there yet.
See, it's not in there.
Yeah.
And I thought I read the agenda. Thank you. And is this it for SJRE's presentation today?
For the monthly operating report.
And Ed doesn't want to say anything?
So,
They may have something.
I have a request. We have these pipe breakages. We've had them for a while. Can we add kind of like a log sheet where you have, like you have the date, location, material, you know, who broke it, you know, nature or the contractor. Sample taken, you know, the status of the sample. We can keep a kind of a running log of the breaks. Maybe we can go back and, you know, when HDR got involved, right around that arena, where you have samples. You took samples and we have a running log, whether it's AC pipe or whether it's, you know, a PVC pipe. So we can keep track of that. We talk about them and I get, is there one, is there two, is there three? And I think a log.
HDR uses the same one that we're keeping, so we're just adding to it. Right now, we've sent those samples out. We're gonna collect until we get about 5, 7
Right, I
of them.
understand.
And send them all at one time.
But I just get a log, one sheet, just list them as they occur, and then we can kind of think about the status of them.
If you
Hopefully it won't
by
be too much.
fiscal year or something like that, makes sense. Can't be ongoing, because it'll be one page, but yeah, we can get you some.
Well, if it gets more than one page, we'll figure out what to do with the data. Hopefully just one page. Fine print, you can always use 8 pitch, right? And that way none of us could read it.
So before, that's it? So before we get off here, I'd like to, you want to say something? I'd like Mr. Shackelford to come over here. Mr. Shackelford, is this your last trustee meeting before
Yes.
your retirement?
Yes, sir.
Well, I personally want to thank you. I've been a member for 2 years and you have been an incredible wealth of information. I've learned a lot. We bumped heads sometimes, but every time we bumped heads, I learned even more. And I think the bottom line was you work very hard to make sure that our residents got what they needed for the right price. So I want to personally thank you and wish you very well.
Thank you.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you from all the records.
Yeah.
Hey, the SRA is consider and act on the SRA Woodlands Division fiscal year 2027 operating budget, including wholesale water rates and sewer rates.
I think it's been presented, so I think it goes to the audit committee for thoughts and recommendations, and I'm here in case you have any questions. Nothing's changed.
So I sent an email requesting that we're gonna vote on something that we at least have a paper copy of it. But I guess that didn't get acted on. So I appreciate there was no change from what we saw last month, but from a minutes standpoint, just to ask us to vote, saying, we're not voting on, everybody remember what we saw last month? No change, let's vote on it.
I get you. I thought Woodlands Water would include what we already sent. That's my fault. We're not sitting and saying, please include this. So since nothing changed, we typically don't resubmit the same thing, but not a problem. Understood.
But we've all received direction from our MUDs, have we not, how to vote on this matter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true too.
that's true. Yeah. Okay.
Your point's well taken. I hate it too.
I just prefer to.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, my MUD is to give me directions how to vote. I'm ready to vote. But it's like, I'm voting with no ballot. Okay.
Fair enough.
Oh, you're voting
Voting on based on
No,
what we've
you're
already seen.
voting without a voter guide.
No, that's what he needs, the voter guide.
Yeah. Okay.
Voting to represent your mother as directed.
Okay.
Okay, so knowing Brad's comments, so it says consider an act. Consider an act on the SRA Woodlands Division fiscal 2027 budget. So do I have a motion to
Move that we accept the budget.
accept the budget? You got a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of accepting the budget, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Got opposed.
Consider an act on a supplement agreement of the SRA issuance of bonds. So I'm gonna table that for another month and then I'll discuss that later in committee reports. Okay,
Oh, so, okay.
All right, man.
okay. And
Water.
review the draft Woodlands Water Fiscal Plan 2027 operating budget.
Is there nothing?
I am passing out a PowerPoint that the audit committee requested that we prepare to make it a little simpler, really to just focus on the highlights. All right, so these documents that you have here, there's several, what you'll see is different scenarios. For the purpose of this discussion, you can just pick one, it doesn't matter. Pick scenario one for ease, and we'll kind of, the presentation will kind of go through it in a little bit. So they can kind of follow along. To start with, because we do have some new trustees, I wanted to kind of go through the process that we go through in order to get to this point. And one thing before I get too far, there's no vote tonight. This is part of the process. There's multi-steps in this process going through the audit committee here, and I'm going to go through that process, but I wanted to cover that first. So it starts roughly in June, although we go through planning all year round. In June, July, we gather internal departmental budget items. We look at staff planning, performance reviews, various WWA expenses as well. We start putting that together. We also look at the MUD project expenses as well. The project expenses are that tan area on the budgets. I'll go through that here in a second. The first step at that point is we meet with both the personnel and audit committees, and we did that last year. That's the initial step. From there may be initial comments or suggestions, which we will take into consideration for tonight and make any adjustments then. Then after tonight, we will get any additional comments from the trustees that are seeing it, that are not on those committees. And then you'll have the opportunity over the next few weeks to get us comments on any details that you have questions on. At that point, we will then have another meeting with the personnel and audit committees after tonight, probably after next week. Give you all a little bit of time to just go through the numbers and send in any comments that you might have. And we'll meet up with the audit personnel committee in the next week or so to go over any revisions at that point. And then ultimately, we would look for approvals at the September meeting for preparation of our October 1 fiscal year. The assumptions on this in our budget, and there's a lot of things that go into it. The water and sewer revenue is estimated. Obviously, wet years, dry years. We try to look at the last 3 to 5 years, but the reality is if there's kind of an outlier, we'll take that into consideration. To make, if there was a really heavy drought year, we're not going to say that's going to be the norm. So we use best guess on where that revenue is going to be. The new and development, redevelopment connections and fee revenue is also estimated. Historically, that was very loosely estimated because we just didn't know how many inspections, how many new taps and stuff like that we would have. Through our new software, the work order software, and the new development program that we've developed over this last year, we are now tracking that information. So we can start to do some trend data for better future forecasting to identify, again, we still won't know how many people are redoing their equipment at the house or whatever the case may be, but we may have maybe there's some trend data on times of the year. Usually it's in the summer that it ramps up, but we'll have better data going forward to even better forecast that in the future. The MUD services area, and that's, as I mentioned, kind of the orange area in the budgets, that is really the MUD budgets. That's the information that comes. You'll see, you and your MUDs will see that next week and all of the detail that goes into it. And so, some of those items are scheduled and some of those items are estimated. For instance, we don't know how many lines are going to break. We don't know how many leaks that we're going to have, things like that. Whereas in some cases, we may not know how many meters break or replaced, but we may know how many we're anticipating changing out. Like the last couple of years, we, estimated the commercial meters that we were planning to do. Last year, we had planned ditch work. And so those things we, have better control over, whereas, the various maintenance and breaks things, we don't. But on the things that are estimated, we try to look at the last couple of years of actuals to do an estimate there. On the interest income, I just pointed that out. That too is kind of conservative. I'll go, estimates on where we go with that. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of, interest income that really comes in. And I'll go over that in the next slide. And then due to timing, there's some line items that, aren't can't estimate it exactly because some of those contracts, or fees changed throughout the year. And we don't know that as of, July and August and sometimes. And so some items will be over, some will be under throughout the year, but we try to manage that best we can to keep the expenses down and hope it matches the revenue side of things. From a specifics summary, the audit committee asked that I kind of go over some of the highlights of some of the areas, and this is where you can kind of read along a little bit if you just grab one of the budgets. I've kind of gone from top to bottom, covering some of the highlights. On the taps and inspections line item, that is you can see that on page 1 of the budget. That summary there is estimated to increase on the revenue side 82.5%.
What line number is that?
That would be 4212, or excuse me, 4215 and 4220. Yeah, taps and inspections, that overall grouping anticipated. And that's due to a couple of things. One is our revamped new and redevelopment compliance program that we built this year, basically documenting all of the incoming new and redevelopments, and then ensuring that, we're finishing the plan reviews, collecting the plan review fees, doing the CSIs, customer service inspections, et cetera. And kind of associated with that, so we haven't talked about this in a while, but this document, which I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is associated with that. So this document is what's called Fee Schedule A. And when you look through it, you'll quickly see that it has a lot of things like, fee to replace damaged antenna, fee for application process, those things like that. We have done a revamping of that too, because Kim and I looked at this and said, there's some things that need to be modernized here that need to be a little bit more consistent with other municipalities that we're familiar with. So all in all, there's, some increases in that, and that would be what an incoming individual would see if they're wanting to come in and do work. So, or that also contributes a little bit to that increased revenue that will be coming into the lines.
So let me just confirm, the 82% is the budget to budget, not actual to budget. So if you look at actual,
So that was bad.
we're close to what our current year is. Right. So it's if you look at last year's or current year budget, significantly missed what the current year actuals are. So the future year budget is much closer to current year actual.
Yeah, I think that will continue to increase as well.
Okay, so it's to actual. Well, it's
Well, you can
predicted
compare-
it's 25,
Yeah, you
26.
compare
Yeah.
to actual, right.
Okay, cool. So the same on the mud work?
Mud work, we typically don't go through at the trustee level
Right.
just because there's a lot of specifics within each mud. And currently the numbers you see here, this is on the revenue side, they're associated with, it could be very specific projects to that specific mud. And so on the revenue side, that's 10% markup on top of the expense
Right,
side. That's
right,
all that is.
right.
And that's where the revenue comes to manage and kind of work through those projects. So you will see in your mud budgets a lot more detail and discussion
Okay.
on that section going forward.
And I appreciate that. When I say mud work expense, let's look at the expense. And if I go to total outside services, from actual to budget, it's almost twice as much. So what am I missing? I'm doing the math wrong. In other words, on page 2, bottom line, outside services, which is mostly the mud work. It's going from actual of 4.6 million to 9.6 million. And I appreciate we're gonna get the detail in the months. I'm just looking at the big picture. Yeah, I'm not understanding the decrease.
Because timing on larger work in sewer repairs, right?
Right. And then there's also a couple of large ditch projects in some mud. So yeah,
So I just did all total outside services.
it's actually going up.
But I guess, John, what I'm saying is, if you look at the budget, The bottom
Yes, sir.
of page 2.
I'm on page 2, correct?
Okay, the budget was for current year, it's 9.8.
Yes.
Okay, we're only spending 4.6.
Oh, no, okay, so I was levering off the comment you made the last line item was we're comparing these numbers to actual 25, 26.
Oh.
That's what you asked on the taps.
Right, so if you look, it depends on, so the point is here, there's a timing issue. We put a lot of money in for work that hasn't happened, but we're expecting it will happen in 2026, 2027.
Understood.
And or there's new projects.
For the new stuff, yeah.
That's where the
Do you
detail.
understand my confusion? If you have a slide with decrease, increase, it should be comparing this apples to apples and not switching between last year's budget and last year's actual.
If you go back to 4.8, so you just jumped from reimbursements to expenses. So if you go back,
Right here, it's a expense. I'm just following taps as line item 1 or bullet point 1, bullet point 2 is work expense and revenue. And so I would expect to see that compared to apples, that's all. That's why I'm
apples is the 4.8 is the 12.1 to 11.6 on page 1. I'm sorry to interrupt. If I can understand it, I think.
So what, when you say 12.1, where are you reading that at?
Yeah, really.
Total reimbursements.
Total reimbursements, page 1.
Budget.
Budget for this
25,
year is
26.
12.1 and 9.8.
Oh, you're on a different scenario.
No, that's the scenario.
Scenario 2?
Scenario 1.
So scenario 1, no scenario.
Oh, that can explain some of that. No, I still don't see 12.
So I see 11.5 and 11.6. Yes.
Budget
Oh, okay.
12.1,
Okay.
9.8. New budget is 11.6. The delta is 4.8.
Oh, I see. It's compared to 2026.
That's revenue for everything. Is that what you mean by mud work? It's everything? Yeah.
This number.
Okay, so I understand. And
That's the four.
Yeah, and when you did this one, that's the point exactly. When you did the one above it, you said the difference was between actual and the budget. That's all. I'm confused by what we're comparing. That was the point.
The 82% is the budget versus budget.
And the 82% is, I thought you said I thought you said it was the actuals. Okay, so it's budget to budget, not actuals.
My comment was,
Okay.
the actual is much less than the 82%.
So we're doing a budget to budget comparison and not the last
I
fiscal
think you
year.
have to look at both of them.
Okay, I'm understanding now. Thank you.
Okay, so then, let's see here. That takes us to, so mud work expense or revenue decrease, 4.8. And then the corresponding is a 2% decrease on the back side of that. Special purchases there at the bottom of the green is actually decreasing proposed this one, 42.7%. But does include one truck replacement. That's typically where we would put equipment or truck replacements. And so this coming year, we only have one truck replacement due to high mileages. And then we had a proposal in there for GM fleet vehicle as well. And that's total 124 going down from 216. Then on the employee expenses, let me do the interest income, just to point this out, because I know it was discussed kind of in the estimated budget a couple months ago, was our current investment position is roughly around 3.8%. So we budgeted 3.5. Don't know where that interest rate will go, but as you can see, there's not a whole lot of money that it really moves in that. So I just wanted to point that out because that was a point prior. On the employee expenses on the top of page 2, overall in that area is 13.6 increase. That includes 5% on the salaries, Plus it also in this scenario includes 2 new FTEs. And also,
Excuse me, are you going to discuss what those 2 are?
Mhm.
Said, well, I tried to wade through this. Is that scenario 1 without 2?
The scenario 1's with 2, just because that was the first one, and then the audit committee requested we do a separate scenario, which I'll get to that on the next page, but it does not include that, right? And the effects to that. And then we have an increase in medical. That was kind of our 2 bigger things there. 9% increase. And as you know, we're self-funded, so we have to guess what the claims might or might not be, and we do that. It could be higher or lower every year. We've been pretty successful kind of throwing that dart over the last few years. This year looks like we're going to be, usually we've been a little bit, the actual claims have been under the estimate. This year it looks like we're going to be right on what our estimate was. I'd like to be a little bit over that, just conservatively. So in addition to the increased premium, also 2 new FTEs, I put in some additional funds for for claims estimates. That's from 500 to 600 increase. Professional fees, which is the next section down, 75% increase. That is almost 100% related to the transfer of the Cornerstone lobbyist budget item that you've had in the SRA budget over the last 3 years, 3 or 4 years, I think it's been. And that was about $96,000. So that makes up almost all of that adjustment. And so SRA had asked that that get transferred instead of their budget to put in the WWA budget or the MUD budget. So that's what that number is for. And then facilities operations, go to page 3. And so facility at the bottom of the page, building operations and service center operations. Those 2 are the building operations is this building, and the service center operations is our field office. And so as you know, we had a decent amount of increased budget over the last few years to make, changes to this building. You've seen the changes over the last couple years. So that particular budget has dropped 24% for this building from last year. And then we've increased the field office budget proposed to do some renovations over there. It's in a pretty rough shape in some areas. So we need to tackle that this next year. We knew that it was needed, but we didn't want to do all of that at once between this building and that building. So it's time to tackle that one. It'll be a little bit of electrical, some sheetrocking, a little bit of minor flooring repair, and then some paint. So nothing overly major, but those are the main items that are proposed for the field office. But the net increase between those 2 offices is about 17,300 between those 2 budget line items from the last 2 years, last year. So the key takeaways from scenario 1 on the next page was to the recommendation of 2 new FTEs. One is a compliance construction manager, and I can provide I've written up a detailed summary of what those would be, but essentially, to try to assist staff. When we built this, we revamped our new development program this year that I mentioned. And as I report in my GM report each month, you see that we have over 200 active projects going on right now. So every one of those has an incoming response, record keeping, plan reviews, in-field inspections, et cetera, et cetera. And so that has become pretty significantly overwhelming for our existing staff. So the individual would certainly help with that. And then they would jump into all of the compliance stuff that we do with TCEQ, EPA, Texas Water Development Board, and others. And I've got a lot more write-up on that I can provide, but that's kind of the highlights. That will help reduce some overtime in the existing staff, and then also provide some relief to Kim, who's really not able at this point to, and she and I are not able to tackle some of the other bigger things that we've been wanting to try to get through with the SFDUEs and some of the other things that were just buried in some of this development work. So that's the first proposed FTE. The other one is an administrative coordinator, which would basically help Shelley, myself, and Kim out, as well as other staff, but mainly us. Shelley has become extremely overloaded with the HR work and some of the other, and all the board stuff. And also secondarily, kind of a succession planning piece potentially to that over the next few years, depending on what her decisions are, in years to come. But that would be the long-term idea for that. And then that individual working with the compliance coordinator would also help head up our safety program and safety tailgates and things like that, lunch and learns and stuff. So the other highlight I already mentioned, the 96,000 for the Cornerstone lobbyist, the GM fleet vehicle. There are no proposed water and sewer rate increases at the moment. We are trying to get the finished rate study. We don't have that, but the boards will see your budgets next week, and you can kind of look at that. I think we are probably due. Last time we changed the rates were 2 years ago, and before that, I think it was 6 or 8 years prior to that. And so we'll be looking probably more aggressively, next year to look at water and sewer rates as it relates to, covering all the expenses. In this particular scenario, the admin fee would increase from 780 to 855. On the next slide, the audit committee asked me to put together a second scenario with the idea of potentially removing the 2 FTEs and the fleet vehicle. Those amount to about $170,000 between the expenses for the employees and the vehicle. So as you can see there, the change, if they were removed, would drop the admin fee to $812. And then the other request from the audit committee was, well, what would that look like on the MUD budgets in terms of their, which is one of the categories. And again, we'll look at this next week at the MUD level. What is the months of reserve for each MUD? And the delta ranged between those two scenarios of anywhere from about 0 month change to 0.2 change, across the different MUDs. So
would it be fair if I took scenario 1 and scenario 2, looked at the general administration fee on scenario 1 versus 2, and I just took MUD 1 to pick on MUD 1. So the change in dropping the 2 FTEs in the GM vehicle would impact MUD 1 by the difference between 272 and 257?
it's right there.
Oh, there it is. I didn't have that, did I?
No,
Oh,
I
good.
don't know that.
Then I would have been asking another stupid question
No.
tonight. Okay, good.
I
So that-
figured that
yes, you would.
that one bullet would not suffice.
Thanks, Ron.
So we did the math for you. And this, the MUDs, again, this is MUD level stuff, but you can see what scenario 1 currently, and again, don't get too worked up about those gains and losses in either scenario, because they are related to the specific MUD projects. And, for instance, just for an example of MUD 39 and MUD 67 have some bigger drainage things to tackle. And that's what's causing those numbers there. And those MUDs may decide, you know what, I don't want to do that, or I want to push that off. So those decisions haven't been made. And when those MUDs go through their budgets, the gains and loss summaries may change. So, but I wanted to, for the purposes of this discussion, point out the last 2 columns, which is really what the delta in at least what the current budgets are showing for the MUD. So the reason, and the zeros aren't 0, but you go down to multiple decimal points and it's 0.00, et cetera. So as you can see, what the financial delta is on some of those.
It's a good summary.
So what I would ask, and again, I will be meeting with the audit personnel committees over the next probably after the MUD meetings would be best, and go through any more detail. I would ask the rest of the director trustees to send me any other comments that you might have or anything you want to see, and we'll be happy to make revisions and make adjustments. Is there any immediate?
At the risk of catching javelins, why would an increase in water and sewer not be considered in any scenario?
Because the rate setting is not done.
Only solely because of that.
Well, I mean, yeah, we look at that every couple of years.
When is it expected?
Say again?
When is it expected?
Hopefully in the next few days.
So this could change.
Potentially,
Okay.
but I think it's important we look at the MUD budgets independently and then
Okay.
see if a global rate adjustment is needed, depending on, because I will say, as you can see, another thing to point out here, and I will say, like, for instance, MUD 39 has an aggressive project in there that's quite expensive. Their typical month's coverage is close to 20. And you can see where it drops, but look at where all the other MUDs are, which from when I started, that is a significant change. And we've worked hard, the trustees, the boards have worked hard to push those reserves up. So the MUDs are looking pretty good in reserves, pretty healthy overall. But that's what you need in order to cover the bumps in the night.
The big project.
Correct. And, last year we tackled a lot of ditch work at the MUD level. You will hear next week that where we have completed the majority of that. That was never a 12-month process. It was, 18 or more. So we're going to, be finishing some of the ditch stuff up next year. We're going to focus our attention a little bit more on the ditch stuff to some of the desilting, which that's where a couple of those higher numbers are. On a couple of those MUDs is 67 and 47 have some significant desiltation of some ditches they have. So that's in their budgets. That's what's causing some of those negatives and the gains. And we'll be able to share this with you, and you'll see all that at your MUD level.
So Eric, thanks to you and your team for pulling all this together. I think for me, the takeaway from a budget and audit committee, we've got a decision, we've got a request to go up in headcount, and we've got a request for a vehicle. And what you see from a budget standpoint, it doesn't move the needle. The decision needs to be made from a policy standpoint and a long-term philosophy standpoint. Do we want to grow staff? What do we want to do with that staff? And what do we do from a policy standpoint related to the car, which has been kind of in policy years ago, then kind of out of policy and press to bring back in policy. There was nothing in here that said, oh, these decisions are going to dramatically change what our customers pay or what reserves we have. Okay, so you can look at the numbers all you want. I don't think there's guidance in the numbers that say, clearly, if you got a higher cost and a lower cost, but the difference between the higher cost and lower cost is not like the difference between building a $500 million plant and not building a $500 million plant. It's, $170,000, $200,000. Doesn't mean we shouldn't properly evaluate it and make some decisions. But I think the decision needs to be based upon where are we going with staff? What do we want our work content to be? What's the best way to do that? And what's our policy related to vehicles? Which areas to go, commitment, come back to the personnel committee, and then based upon that, come back to the audit and budget committee.
That's correct.
So when you hear next month, it'll be after Eric's gone back to the two committees, and then the our committees will come back and have some recommendation. Okay. So, right, I mean, I think there's a little bit of discomfort in that we don't have an answer, but that's consistent with the work process. We'll have a recommendation in September. This is information, work in progress. It's being worked on. And if you guys have input, definitely toss questions to Eric. So we can get his thoughts back to the committees before we meet again in September.
I've got one comment, is that we suspend looking at scenario 2 until we resolve the tax department issue that we approached again. And there's $300,000 that
Scenario 1, right?
we maintain, we put scenario 2, that's, or scenario.
Scenario 2 was the reduce people in car.
Yeah, so that's the status quo. And maybe you all want to sit down and talk to Tammy McCray, your committee, and determine whether this is going to be addressed, because there's $300,000 that is available. And the other concern I got, and I agree, this is 2 more people. We added 4, what was it, a year and a half ago? So how many total?
No, we had 4 in the budget. We hired 3. When I first got here, I actually lowered the count. And I knew that we needed to rebuild, but I also knew we needed to clean some things up. So I reduced counts when I first got here.
Did you fire somebody?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, there was.
I'm trying
This
to get.
isn't the place. to
Well, I understand. I was going to suggest that we discuss this in closed session, but we broached it the last time. But I think we budget for scenario 2, and of course, this is a year process. We're to turn over the tax collection to the
I don't
county.
think y'all be discussing something we had in closed session last meeting.
No, but I mean,
That's this meeting.
it's not, no, we're not discussing it. I'm just,
Okay.
the point is that we need to, before we discuss hiring people, we need to decide whether we're gonna continue with the tax department or turn it over to the county, and whether you want to do it in your committee or, but I'd be happy to give you some background. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm on the committee, but not the head. And so I'm more than willing to work with the committee on and looking at that question. I think the assumption that because you get rid of $300,000 on this account doesn't mean you're not going to pick up some cost through the other account, right? So I don't know the amount of savings, and until we do the work, we wouldn't know. So I'm agreeing with you that right now that I proceed with scenario 2.
Well,
It's a fair question.
No,
No,
but I mean,
disagreeing.
it's going to charge, you're going to go from about $7 or $8 per account to about 20 or 30 cents.
You can do them. I know how to do them.
No, okay.
I'm with,
I'm just asking somebody to,
we will.
before we go hiring more people.
There's the head of your personnel committee right there. He's nodding his head that he will look at it with us.
So last month, Kent asked if we to contact the county and get a refresh quote. I guess the quote's probably a decade old. Have you made any progress on that?
I'm with Ron. Let's table this until we'll get with their personnel committee. We'll get with their. Yeah.
Well, but I don't want to go hiring 2 people. And in fact,
All right.
I wouldn't recommend it, hiring 2 people.
I have a question about the process. So, because I'm new to this. So the trustees will meet next month and approve the WWA budget. But some of the things we're approving the WWA budget are actually MUD driven. So if the MUD says, I don't want to do that big, large ditch project, whatever, Eric, I'm just making something up. So how, do we have to come back and adjust it, or is it just part of something?
And adjust and rolls through.
You adjust it and you resubmit, so we're all on the same page, or? I don't know.
From their budget, it doesn't matter. They just pass it. We just,
It's just
from their budget, all the budget expenses are passed through.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all,
yeah, yeah.
it's the only thing that they control is the overhead charges or the admin.
No, but if you elect not to do a project, that would,
No, it wouldn't affect them.
But the expense and the revenue comes out.
expensive revenue come out, right?
It'd just be a net zero.
Wash.
Except for the 10%. That's the loss.
I was curious, but I hadn't been here before. Thank you.
Don't take away, it's, you'll get comments back there so that the budget, he can follow up with the budget and audit
And the
committee.
committee needs to follow up. Okay, thanks.
So what I'd recommend, request is that we try to get them on different days this time.
Yes.
Well, I had to.
All right, will do.
With that.
Go, boss.
Okay, so
Right.
are we done discussing that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, received the attorney's report.
One thing I have under 15 this evening is a reminder, if y'all haven't completed your cyber and AI training, to please do so. Deadline is at the end of this month. Yep. And Shelley's going to resend the links out to y'all in case you need them.
Shelley, you kept a list of who hasn't done it? Okay.
Gonna make it public?
Got the naughty list. We weren't going to rate it. I mean, we
Yeah,
can.
I don't want to do that, but I
Name and shame, right?
would ask, I'm wondering if you should send it to the president of each MUD so they're aware of who they need to encourage.
Reminders to those that haven't done it went out today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, didn't get
Gee,
that.
I didn't get one.
We think you did it.
I did. It was quite informative. Something, is that what I'm supposed to say?
I'll tell you, as a direct, MUD president, I don't want to, I'm happy for them to, or dog my people.
Fair enough.
Okay,
It's not a-
so Eric's
That's what you
done.
wanted to do. I'm not-
Received the general manager's report. You got anything else, Eric? I mean, Brian's done.
No, just the, like we've talked around, but the MUD budgets will be presented next week and a lot of work to do. Oh, they're ready, but lot to go through next week.
Okay, so we're going to talk about staff and ad hoc committees. So the first thing is John talked about his water loss.
It wasn't on the list.
Yeah, I know. Can we add as an ad hoc committee, water loss committee.
We will.
Okay. I've also formed an engineering committee. It's made up of one trustee, myself, and then three of our engineers that we recently elected. And that's Nammy Southern, George Opendorf, and Ray Richards. And so what we're doing is really coming up to speed on how to conduct major infrastructure projects. And so we have those three guys. Nammy's is a Texas A&M chemical engineer. Ray Richards, I think he, I don't know where he went undergraduate, but I think he went to environmental engineering out of Rice. And his experience, Nammy worked for a big oil company. Ray worked for one of the big oil companies in waste treatment. So he has experience with treating waste at the refinery level. And then George, he has a license and at some level in both water and sewer. He owns his own mud up in Dallas, little teeny one. He says the profit's so small. And really what he spent his career doing is, when they have a problem, takes environmental quality board to call them and say, hey, we got a problem with this mud. And they would hire him and he'd go work on the issue. So he has a career in this area. And so what we've done is we've actually had 3 meetings. We kind of had an organizational meeting at Starbucks and chatted. And we were able to meet with the city of Shenandoah, the water department that does these projects for them. And we had an hour-long discussion with some documents discussing, how they conduct these new water pipeline projects. And then we actually met with the city of Conroe also, and did the same discussion with them. And actually, city of Conroe has an interesting project. They recently redid, if you know where the hospital is, and you take that loop around the hospital of all the dissecting elements, that they just recently replaced a AC pipe up there. So, we got the quote packages, we got the maps, we talked about execution and how they handle these projects within a city structure. And so we did that. And then, so we had those 3 meetings. And then today at 9 o'clock or 9:30, we met with SRA and went into a detailed discussion and presentation of how the SGA would do these. And that's the first time I think we've, as a body, have went into that level of detail. And so to be honest with you, that those two meetings with the City of Conroe, City of Shenandoah were very helpful for bringing the four of us up to speed about how they conduct these projects. So that committee, I think that's, we have those three mud directors, obviously not trustees. If I have a report, I'll make the report. If eventually we need them to speak about their experience and observations, we can take a vote to allow them to speak. But, I'm looking at that as a core skill set that we can maintain as we go forward in these projects. And to be honest with you, they've been enthusiastic. Everybody's been punctual. They read the documents, they review them. So I'm real pleased with their commitment to this process so far. And so I'm just gonna call it the engineering committee. And then we had, we've kind of talked about personnel and audit. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to add?
Just that we met last week, and as you've heard, we've got a few more things we need to discuss. We've made an initial document request, which we've received and haven't had time to really look it over. I'm sure we'll have another one soon. I know the one thing that we're going to have an issue with is Jim's about to head out of town till the end of the month. So trying to figure out how his communication is going to be on a sailboat.
We understand. Oh, we understand.
Well, we can do what Brad does, have it a Zoom session.
Zoom.
We can do Zooms and committees. We can't do them at the.
When you're on a sailboat out in the middle of the ocean, it's all
Yeah, for Zoom. Oh, you poor
Yeah.
baby.
Well, you better get your,
I'm
Space X,
I can go on the sailboat with him. We just have it there.
Don't tell him where
you're going.
okay, so that's the committee. So,
What, public education?
public
The
education.
three trustees that are on the public education committee will be meeting tomorrow morning with Eric and John Geiger. And so we'll get it kicked off.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, no closed session, right? Let's call for a closed session, okay? Okay, discuss any matters to place on future agenda, and then that topic, that any information requested this month.
I don't think we had any.
You got any information that,
No, I think.
No, you
No,
tried.
after all these meetings, man.
yeah, you're
But
trying,
We
okay.
do, yeah. So
Anything on future agendas?
Well, I mean, Mr. Heath made an interesting argument. I personally have no desire to make any references to the Woodland Township. That's their own. I have had personal conversations with Eric about whether we'd ever use any of our equipment to allow a flock camera on, and he assured me that we don't. So I don't know that we need an agenda item. I'm just giving you my background for what I know.
Have any, we don't touch that.
We don't have any jurisdiction on that.
That's what
I can tell you the topic is borrowing.
Mhm.
And I was at a recent Republican Club meeting, and that was one of the discussion topics. And so it's simmering
So,
beneath the surface.
so Eric has guaranteed
I'm all
me,
for what Adrian said, but outside of the scope of what we
Well, I
do.
think, yeah, not even,
Right.
really shouldn't even be deliberating since it's
Yeah.
not.
Eric did mention that transmission, our water distribution lines are not open to flock cameras. Not gonna be watching sewer lines or water lines.
Okay, whatever.
Well, they don't have license plates on.
There are some areas we like to put some cameras to get the vandals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All for those.
Yeah, we do have, but no.
I have found in my personal experience is that those cameras aren't good enough to match the face to find the guy.
You're right.
You know what I mean? That's the problem.
Well, the bigger problem is the DA having the ability to even press charges based
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I know-
Biggest,
I know we're getting, feeling.
biggest.
Yeah.
Brian, I have nothing for that agenda item.
Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
You think your BS
Second.
alarms to go
All
off.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Gravel's out.